Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in a few minutes here. Just let a few more people join. Keep in mind for this session, you will see the webinar chat, but you won't be able to type into it. That is just for our panelists. So we have panelists here to answer questions as we go through the session. And I'll answer some questions live if I can. But all questions will be in the Q&A. So for the chat, just look for things like knowledge base articles, resources, and any questions, feel free to type over in the Q&A section. Okay, it looks like we are just about at the start time. So I will go ahead and slowly get started. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us. This is our session on mastering subscriber segmentation, which of course leads to higher engagements. We'll be talking about segmentation strategies in general, as well as how to actually do this in MailerLite. The session isn't really for a specific type of viewer as far as advanced or beginner. I'll just be giving a lot of general information. So some things you might have already heard before and you might just learn more about, or you might just learn a few new things, hopefully. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Once again, any questions can go in the Q&A, but keep an eye on the chat for any resources. Sessions should be about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions we have. Okay, quick intro. My name is Harmony. I'm a customer education specialist here at MailerLite. I work with the knowledge base articles, as well as working with our tutorials and everything like that. I've been here for a few years, so just looking forward to helping to explain everything, hoping it makes everything a little bit clearer. Yes, we will be talking about groups and segments, as well as the difference between them. So that's what we'll get started with. So the agenda for today, the first thing we'll be talking about is going into that foundation. So segments, groups, custom fields, as well as preference center. So these are all different ways to segment in MailerLite, and we'll be going through all of the different ways to do that, as well as talking about just general best practices and why it is good to segment and why we talk about targeting in general, okay? And then at the end, like I said, if there's any questions that I can answer, we will answer those in a Q&A and share some resources. Okay, so just a basic question. What is email segmentation, sometimes called targeted email marketing? What exactly are we referring to? And essentially, when you have an email list, you have one general email list that includes everybody who signed up, regardless of how they signed up, where they're from, what they signed up to receive. It doesn't matter, they all end up on one list. Email segmentation is dividing those subscribers based on different things: demographic, location, email history, lots of different ways to segment. But that is basically the idea. It's taking your main email list and dividing it into smaller audiences based on a set of characteristics that you choose. So like I said, there's lots of different ways to segment and lots of different things that they can be based on, but it all is about personalizing your messaging, which of course leads to higher engagement. If you are just starting your email list, this is also good to know because you can start segmenting early. And if you already have a larger email list, there are many ways to start segmenting that audience as well. Okay, so the benefits of targeted email marketing, why we do it, why we talk about it, why we recommend to send to smaller lists of targeted subscribers versus just sending every message to everyone. Lots of different benefits. Mainly, as we mentioned, higher engagement. So that means higher open and click rates. More subscribers opening your emails, clicking through to the offer, and engaging with your newsletters. When people receive relevant email messages, they're more likely to increase engagement. And that could be a lot of different things. That could be personalizing it with their name. It could also be personalizing it with what they signed up for and the email journey that they are on. Aside from higher engagement, also lower unsubscribe rates. So if you are sending to the right audience, the right messages to the right audience, you do avoid that inbox fatigue. So people receive lots of messages and lots of emails every single day. So having that targeted email marketing does help to lower unsubscribe rates and make your emails stand out and less likely to unsubscribe from your content. I mentioned customer journeys. So this is where we talk about, instead of just sending a one size fits all email, which of course you might be doing for a general newsletter, and that's totally fine. But in this case, we are talking about those customer journeys. So maybe they bought something specific and that leads to different emails versus if they signed up through a specific form, that leads to a different email sequence, or that leads to them being treated differently to a different subscriber. That's what we're essentially talking about. When they join a specific group, hit a milestone in your business structure, or they have a certain custom field updated, they are automatically guided down a path that reflects their relationship with your brand. Greater customer insights. So this also just helps your email stand out, as we talked about before. So when you know more about your customers, you know more about what they're wanting to receive and who they are, it helps them feel like you understand them as a consumer, as a buyer, as a subscriber, whatever that is. And this is a big one, higher scalability. So if you're starting out, you might be sending those one-off emails a bit more often. But when we talk about things like targeted email marketing and automations, triggers, again, I'm using these terms. We'll go into more what this means. This system works for you 24/7 and it is meant to be automatic. So when we talk about targeted email marketing, we also want to make sure that we're automating a lot of this so that we're not necessarily waiting to see, okay, who signed up to the form? Let me send them an email. Who purchased a product? Let me, send them an email right now. It is meant to be an automatic process so that the targeting email marketing is meant to be automatic. Otherwise it sounds like it would add a lot more. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about, in general, just what segmenting is, what targeted email marketing is, why we should care about it, how it helps. And now we're talking about how to actually segment in MailerLite and what this looks like. Of course, we're going to be talking about MailerLite as a platform. These are also just general ways to segment. From actual segments, what they're called, but keep in mind, when we talk about segmenting, it really is just using any of these methods to create smaller lists of subscribers. A segment is one feature and one way to do that. Groups will be another one. Custom fields. This is the information you have about your subscribers and it changes what goes on in the rest. And we'll also talk about the preference center, which has gotten a little bit of an upgrade recently. But first, custom fields, because this is where the segmenting essentially starts. Without having this type of information about your subscribers, it is a lot harder to segment them. It's harder to create smaller lists without knowing more information about them. So when we talk about a subscriber field, it is storing information about your contacts. So that is name, company, location, anything. So name is one subscriber field. Company is another one, location. So each piece of information is what we're calling a field. And I will show what this looks like in MailerLite, but that is what it is. It's just that information that you are collecting. And you use this to both personalize emails as well as segment. So doing that personalization, which does help you segment and create those targeted campaigns. So some examples, as I mentioned already, email is a field, name, company, country. You can also create custom fields. So you can create your own names for information that you'd like to collect. Maybe if you have, a certain membership structure in your business, you can have the membership level they are on, anything like that. So let me go ahead and go over to the MailerLite app now that I've been talking for a minute. And I will show what custom fields and what fields look like in the platform. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen here. Actually, let me switch to a different, here we go. So you should be able to see the dashboard here. If I go over to subscribers, this is where I have my subscriber list, and we can see segments, groups, and fields. Right away, when I'm on the subscribers page, I'm looking at all subscribers, right? So these are not segmented in any way. This is just my general list of active. Of course, if I want to see unsubscribed, bounced, unconfirmed, anything else, I do have other categories. But this is just the general list. It does not matter how they joined, if they were imported with a file, if they signed up through a form, they end up here. Segments and groups, we will go into that in a minute. Let's go over to fields. So you can see here we have the information for the subscribers. This is the name of the subscriber field, the type, so whether it is text, if it is a number or a date, and then what the tag is. So the tag is how you would bring that information into a campaign. So you can see here we have some e-commerce ones because we have a WooCommerce connection here. So you can have those subscriber fields for things like total spent, orders count, everything like that. We also have time zone. Now, some of these are default fields that were already in MailerLite that you will see. Some of these are fields that were added in other ways, like I said, such as e-commerce connections will add extra fields because there's more information to collect. We always have their name, order. If you have any products in your account, you have all of that. As well as just default fields, country, company. You can see these are not ones that I can change or remove because they are default fields, birthday, etc. So this account has a lot. If I want to create a new one, I just create a custom field here. And then I choose whether I want this to be text, number, or date. So the information that is going to be stored in this field, what is that information going to look like? Let's just do text for now. And there it is. And then I will be able to show you how this field can be used in other areas. But when we talk about subscriber fields, that is what we mean. And when I mentioned personalization, right? So let's go ahead and go over to campaigns, and I'll show a little bit about this. Campaigns, newsletters, let's create a new one. Just a regular campaign for now. I'm not really demoing templates or anything, so for now, I'm just wanting to show how you would use those custom fields, those fields in general, to bring that information into a campaign. So now I'm going into the drag and drop editor. Okay, here we are. So when you are in the drag and drop editor, of course, you can just click in to any element to edit, add anything. Let's say we want to first start off adding things like a simple, like the customer's name. If I click into the text area, you see this bar pops up. If I click this symbol for variable, it brings up my subscriber fields. So these are the different fields that I could bring into the campaign. Here's the demo field we just created. Let's do name. And I can add as many as I want anywhere. So what this means is when a subscriber receives this email, whatever information we have as their name will show here. Whatever information we put in that custom field will show here. And this works for any of those fields, such as even those e-commerce fields, what they purchased, date they membership ends or joined, anything like that. But you can just bring that information straight into your campaign, as well as in the subject line. This is just letting us know our buttons are missing links. We don't need to worry about that right now. Same thing with subject line. When you are creating that, you can insert personalization and same thing. You see all of those same fields that we just went through. I'm using name as just a simple one, but you can see that it can go a lot, it can be a lot more complex than just adding that. This is just one of the more common ones, but you can essentially add any type of personalization there. All right. That is custom fields. Let me go back over to our presentation here. And so I wanted to talk about this first because custom fields will also, as I mentioned, come into play with the other areas that we talk about: segments, groups, preference center, everything. So next, let's go into that. Groups and segments. Both ways to create smaller lists in MailerLite. They behave a bit differently and they are used in different ways in the app itself. The most simple way to understand the difference between the two is a segment is a list that is dictated by a rule, a filter, condition, some kind of specific rule has to be set for a segment, okay? Whereas a group is not dictated by any rule, any condition. It doesn't really matter what kind of information the subscriber has about them. They can be added and removed from groups depending on how you want to have them be sorted in those groups. Whereas a segment can only be joined if they meet that rule. Let's show that a bit more in the app so you can see what I am referring to. Back over in the subscribers tab, we have segments, groups, segments. So if I click create segment, you can see here I have some options. I can create one from scratch where I set my own filters, or I can choose from the segment library that we have. And this is a really great way if you're just getting started with email segmentation or you're not really sure how to create those filters or how they work. You can easily see these and click create to create these smaller lists based on location, time zone, email, activity, everything. But let's just create from scratch so we can see how these filters actually work. So right away, I'm asked to begin choosing the filter. So this is the rule that is going to dictate how this segment is created, who is going to be in this segment. There are lots of different ways I can do this: location, sign up date, sign up source, time zone. Maybe I want to create a segment of who is active in certain automations. I can do that as well. Email actions, lots of different ways to do this. Let me go with sign up date is in the last, let's go with 90 days. Refresh, there we go. Okay, so you can see that I had a much larger list before, and then when I created this filter, it went down. If I change this to, let's say, 60, might change, depends on this account. Let's say the last 15 days, just as an example. I think we've uploaded very recently. As you can see, change the filter, change the list. So what this means is only subscribers who meet this rule are added to the segment. If I save those changes, it appears right here in the segment area. I can add more to this and make it a little bit more complex. You can see here we have both and or. So I want to add more filters, right? I want to add additional rules to this, but I either want to choose whether the subscribers have to meet both of those conditions. So the sign up date has to be in the last 25 days. And let's go with campaigns. was sent one of the last campaigns we sent. I think this won't bring up any list, but that's okay. So now we have two conditions and they have to meet both. So you can see it removed all the subscribers because they did not meet these conditions exactly, both of them. But if I want to instead do or, then they have to just meet either one. So let's instead go with something like email actions opened in the last, let's say 10 days. And it looks like this is the same list, but you can see with this, it's either or. So most likely they do not meet maybe this condition, but they are all in this list because they met this one. So either we have, the conditions where they have to meet both, and you can see we can make it even more complex from there. And it will adjust based on that. When we create these segments, we don't really have to check whether it's updated, right? So this will update automatically based on whether they meet these filters or not. So let's say right now, these subscribers currently at this point in time, they meet this rule. They signed up in the last 25 days. As time passes, they will no longer meet this rule anymore. So this segment will update automatically. Whenever they don't meet the rule, it updates. Same thing with segments that have to do with campaign activity. So let's say you create a segment based off of whether a campaign has been opened or not. We showed this as well. Let's say I want to know who opened this specific campaign. Right now it is no subscribers, but if a subscriber opens that campaign, they now meet that rule. They are added to the segment. I don't have to check how that is done. Whereas groups work slightly differently. Create group. As I mentioned, groups do not need to have any type of rule, right? So we have options. We can create a segment by adding more rules, but automatically it just has groups, belongs to what we just created, right? And so right now we have no subscribers in that group. If I go to all subscribers, there are many different ways subscribers are added to groups. One of them is very simply, you choose a subscriber, you click actions, add to group, and you select which group you want to add them to. Same way if you go into your groups, find one with some more people in it. You can also do the same thing, select actions. You can also remove and select the groups they're removed from. Different to segments, right? Because segments, we don't have the option to do this. We can't remove or add them ourselves. They have to meet the condition, but here there is no rule. It's just they're in this group. They can also be added to groups when subscribers are imported as well. So if we are adding subscribers, whether from a CSV file or Excel, or let's say you're just adding a single subscriber, and you want to just add their email name quickly, you can see you also have the option to add them to any group. So this is a great way to add a lot of subscribers into one group, right? So let's say that you already have subscribers in your account, you already have those emails, those contacts, but you want to add them all to a group. Instead of going through and clicking each, name, email, all of that, one way to do it is add them via a file, add all of the names, all of the emails, and add them into that group. because in MailerLite, we don't add any duplicates. So even if you upload the same email, it's not going to count towards your plan or anything like that. It is just going to update the group. So if you upload an email list and you upload them into a group, all that will change is those subscribers will go into that group. It's a way to kind of bulk add. Forms also add subscribers to groups. So whenever we create any type of form, whether that is a pop-up form, embedded form, not promotional as much, those are a bit different, but let's just go with the two most common. Whenever we create any form, we are asked to choose a group. You can see all of the groups are listed here. We can also add a new group specifically for this form. And it asks us to choose this so that if a subscriber uses this form to sign up to our list, they are automatically added to that group. And this is mandatory. Every form has to have a group, and then you go forward with designing your form and everything like that. But you can see each form has to be connected to at least one group. It can be connected to multiple, but at least one group, so that we know if a subscriber is using this form and they add their email, name, we know that they're going to be added into that group. Also with forms, this is another area where we look at subscriber fields and how we collect that information if we don't have it already. So when we create forms in MailerLite, of course, we have these sign-up fields. And by default, email is going to be there because we have to collect their email for them to become a subscriber. And that is going to go into the email field. We might ask their name, other information. And you can see when I create a form, all I do is click settings, add field. And once again, we see all of these subscriber fields from before. And there was the one that we created. You can choose what type of input, whether it's like different checkboxes, text area, whatever that looks like, drop-down menu, add the options for the drop-down menu, whatever. So let's say we did something like this, right? Let's say we had, let's remove some of these to simplify it. Let's say we had this demo field here, and I wanted to add a few options for them to choose from. Option 1, option 2, close. I could make the field required if I need to collect that information before they subscribe, I can do that. And basically, when they subscribe, type in their email, and they choose either option 1 or option 2, depending on which they choose, that information will be shown in that demo field. So what do I mean by that? Let's look at subscribers. If I scroll down, you can see here we have a type of information that we can show. So we want to see their name, maybe their company, city, phone. We want to see a little bit more information. Oops. And this allows us to have this information shown if we want to export, for example. But if I go up, you can see name, last name. So this is all of our subscribers. Let me locate just this for an example. And this is where all those details are stored. So this is the profile for the subscriber and all of the details. This is all of the information we have. So you can see there's not all of the different fields because I don't necessarily have information in all of those subscriber fields, but the information I do have goes and can be seen here. So when you are creating forms, adding groups, using subscriber fields, these are all different ways of creating those segments and those groups. In automations as well, workflows, let's just start from scratch. You can use both segments and groups in automations. This was not always the case. You used to only be able to have groups be used in automations, but now you have both groups and segments. Automations are workflows. These are sequences of different steps, emails, things that you create. This is where that automated process comes in, where we're not necessarily waiting for them to join a segment to send an email or join a group. So let's say we want it to be the starting is when they join a group. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, I want this sequence to begin when a subscriber joins this specific group. If I have an advanced plan, I can also add a second trigger. If not, we can of course use that one, but just so I'm showing both, we can do the same thing with joins a segment. And I choose which segment I want that to be. Save. So because this has two of these two triggers, this automation can be joined either way. Right when this group is joined, the subscriber enters this sequence, or when this segment is joined, they enter the sequence. Of course, if I got rid of either one of these, then this would just be how it works. So this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the group is joined, right? It could be they join the group by being imported from a file into it. They join the group by signing up to a form, which added them to the group. You manually added them. So it doesn't matter. Any way that group is joined, they start the sequence. Right now, nothing happens when they join the sequence, but to make it simple, we have these different rules and actions that show what happens in the flow. Keep it simple, send email. Wherever that email step is placed, an email will be sent. And this is where we configure things like the name, the subject. You can see here I can add personalization, the same way as I did before. And when I click design email, that goes into the email editor. We design the email how we want. And it is done. I won't show that part. This is what I mainly wanted to show, this automatic process. The group is joined, the email is sent. That happens in the background. As soon as it is activated, that will happen. However that group is joined, email is sent. Or if we had the second trigger as before with the segment, same thing. Either the group or segment is joined, email is sent right away. And I could add more steps to this, but I wanted to just show how those groups and or segments filter into an email series to where an email is sent automatically. Okay, that was a large overview of groups and segments in the MailerLite app, as well as how they are used. And you can see they're used in many different ways, both groups and segments. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what they are and the different ways you can use them in MailerLite, because there are lots of ways, from forms to automations to campaigns, everything. Let's go ahead and talk about the next section, which is the preference center. So I will say this is going to be a feature on the advanced plan only. So if you're not on the advanced plan, you will not be seeing the email preference center, but I do want to mention it because it is a really great way to segment your audience. What is this preference center? It is a page where subscribers can control the emails they receive from you. So what we've been seeing right now, a lot of this happens in the background, right? We're setting up those segments, we're dictating those groups, how they're joined, where they're set up, everything like that. But that is all happening on the back end in MailerLite. We're not really letting our subscribers choose how they're segmented. The preference center is the way to do that. This has all the same benefits of just segmenting in general, but even more because, again, you're allowing the subscriber to choose, especially when they might be ready to unsubscribe. So when a subscriber is looking to, maybe they don't want to receive your emails anymore, maybe it's becoming too much for them, or they're not relevant, the emails aren't relevant to their experience, whatever it is, they're ready to unsubscribe. The preference center gives them a second option, a second chance, where instead of unsubscribing, why don't you tell us if you want to just receive less emails, or if there's something else we could be sending you. So it gives you it gives those subscribers a chance to maybe just change how they're receiving emails versus just unsubscribing from your list completely. Improved email metrics when they tell you how many emails they want to receive, how many emails that they are engaging with. Deeper personalization. The preference center also allows a subscriber to update, add any information or remove. So if a subscriber wants to change even their email address and they want to update that email address themselves, let's say they're not using the old one, they want to update it, they don't know how to essentially resubscribe, they don't want to do that, you can have a preference center to allow them to change any of that information. So allowing for more personalization because the subscriber is giving you that information versus you asking to collect it. And more opportunities for automation. So when you use the preference center, again, you are getting those deeper metrics, you are getting that more personalization, and it does add subscribers to groups as well. I will show what I mean. Back into the app. This is kind of the last demo feature demo we'll be showing. Let's go into account settings. And again, I have an advanced plan, right? This is an account with an advanced plan, so that's why I have the preference center, which is right here. And you can see I am met with the default that we have. So if any of you have used the preference center before, you might have noticed it just recently got an upgrade in the past month. So the design was upgraded as well as the features, how it works. It's been very much improved. So if you haven't checked out the new preference center, I recommend to have a look. But let's go ahead and just go into the editor so we can see what we're talking about. So this is the preference center. This is the page that we mean where they can choose their preferences. By default, it will look something like this. So we have the information, and when a subscriber opens this page, they will see the information that you already have. So they will see the email that you have on file, they will see, which name you have for them. This gives them that option to change those things. Interest groups are another area of the preference center. This is how we automate as well. Let's say a subscriber, they don't want to necessarily be receiving all types of content. Maybe they're only really interested in certain things, right? So we can ask them specifically, what type of content are you interested in? Or what are you interested in, let's say. And here we can decide how this is managed. These are the different groups that I have in my account. If I click add new group, it's going to bring up the groups that are already in my account, right? But maybe I don't necessarily want them to see that this is how I have my group names. So I will say that this is for something like skincare. This one is hair. This one is something like women's clothing. And this one is something like sale items. Right, so in this scenario, I'm running a business that sells these things, and the subscriber is getting ready to unsubscribe. They don't want to receive my content anymore because I'm constantly, maybe, well, not constantly, maybe I'm sending them things about skincare and they're not interested in that, right? So they're ready to unsubscribe. But we give them this option where instead of unsubscribing, how about you just tell us, okay, I only want to know about your hair care products. That's all I'm really interested in. So they themselves can place themselves into the hair care group. So you can see I created that custom label. It's not changing the label of the group name. It's just changing how they will view it. I can add a little description if I want to talk a bit more about, what they will exactly see, like the information. And that allows them to say, okay, I only want to receive information about hair care. That puts them into that group, and we don't have to do that ourselves. They tell us that they want to receive hair care products, and they're in that group. Similarly, down here, we also have frequency, which works the same, similar to groups. It's asking, how often do you want to receive emails? Daily, bi-weekly, bi-monthly. We have all these options by default. They can be hidden as well. And we can customize also what that looks like. Bi-weekly newsletter, let's say. Maybe the bi-weekly newsletter, that's how I'm referring to it in my account, but really it's the hair care newsletter. And that is where I share all of the hair products that I sell. And I can set up more specific rules that go beyond just that group. When this option is selected, I can decide if I want that subscriber to be added to a group, removed, or moved from one group to another, removed from a group entirely, or have a custom field updated. So that could be anything from, let's go with Preference Center since I have that already. And I can update it with either the answer or a custom value. So let's say now, if I were to set up this rule exactly as I'm showing it, the subscriber would choose this. They would have this custom field updated with that answer. So then I would know whenever I looked in that preference center field, I could see what they chose. Like our other editors, you can customize this any type of way. You can add images, text, buttons, videos. This page can really look however you want it to look. And up here, you can also edit the confirmation email that they receive, the success page that they see, confirmation page once they've updated their info, for example, all of that. Last thing I will show about the Preference Center. So this is where, again, we have all of these different settings. We could edit. We can see how they're interacting with the Preference Center. So when subscribers start to use this, we can see what questions they're answering, how they interacted, and we can also edit the emails that they receive. They will look like this by default. If I'm in campaigns, let's go over back to newsletters. Because I mentioned that this is a way to give subscribers a different option from unsubscribing, right? So let's go right into the editor for one of our campaigns. Back into that drag and drop editor we were in before. And here, if I scroll down to this bottom block, the footer, click into it, it brings up the settings. And you can see one of the options here is include link to the preference center. And when I do that, and click Save Settings, that will basically give them those two options now. So now instead of just seeing the unsubscribe as they would normally, they will also see the update preferences link. When that link is clicked, it goes to that page that we just created, that preference center. So you can see how when they're ready to unsubscribe, the update preferences is right there as well, and we could change the text. So this could be customized to anything, but I think the update preferences is pretty self-explanatory and fits well. So that is how it would be added to the campaign. Okay, that is basically it for the preference center. Once again, we don't have any buttons, not a problem. And I did not show this before, but just while I'm already here, I will go ahead and show this. We are again on the campaign details page. I did show how we can add personalization into our subject lines. When we talked about groups and segments, when we get to this recipients page or this recipients step where we choose who this campaign is sent to, select recipients, we can choose to send the campaign we just created to all subscribers in the account or only send to certain segments, maybe multiple, or certain groups. So that means not the entire list is receiving this newsletter, just whoever bought the sneakers, let's say. Or let's say that I do want to send to my entire list, but I want to exclude certain subscribers that are in maybe some of these groups or segments. So let's say I want to send this email to all of the subscribers in my account. But if you were in my last webinar, I don't want you to receive this email. Maybe there's info in it that isn't relevant or that you already have. For whatever reason, this email is not for those who attended the last webinar. So I would just exclude. And you can see the recipients list went down because now it is being sent to all active subscribers, except if they're in this segment. I could exclude more. But that is how we kind of configure who receives newsletters, how we target the list, how we segment and send to those segments, everything like that. Okay, that is basically it for all the demo, the demoing in the account. Let me just go back here. Okay, so we're kind of towards the end, the last part of this session here. And I'll just go over a bit of email segmentation ideas, best practices. So now that you kind of understand what email segmentation is, what email targeting is, we've talked about why it's important, why it's something to do, why it helps your account. We've talked about how it can be done practically in MailerLite, how those things are actually set up, how they run, how it looks. And now we'll just talk about different ways that you can actually do this for your audience, for your business, hopefully. These are just some of several different ideas, many ways to segment. One big way to segment is by geography. Excuse me. So if you have an audience from different parts of the world or even different parts of the country, if your country has different time zones, you can still segment based on that kind of geography. In MailerLite itself, you saw when we went to create segments and we had those pre-made segments, some of those are geography based or location based. So we have location based segments as well as time zone. You might not always have the time zone or the location of your subscriber, but for those that you do, they can be segmented this way. Purchase activity. This is another big one. And I actually will go into the app as I talk about this because it is important. A big way to segment, as I've mentioned a little bit throughout this, but I haven't shown too much, is by purchase activity. So this can be for any plan level, but you do need to have an e-commerce store connected to MailerLite. So if you have Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, PrestaShop, any of the e-commerce connections we have, if you have those connections to MailerLite, you can then segment by purchase activity. Different ways to do this. As I showed before, when we talked about custom fields, those e-commerce connections will add extra fields for your subscribers based on those purchases, orders count, all of that. But back over in automations, we can also segment by purchase activity. And again, this can be for any plan level, as long as you just have that e-commerce integration. So we see all of these before. We talked about the group and segment trigger. Let's go down to e-commerce. And here we have abandoned cart, buys a specific product, any product, or from a category. Let's just go with specific product. Here I choose, now I have lots of different shops connected. I have a PrestaShop connected. I have products that I've created in MailerLite itself. So I can choose that, save. So now we've just created this trigger. When this specific product is purchased, they enter this flow. And what happens, maybe an email is sent, maybe I add them to groups based on this. Let's say I send them an email, customize the email, and then after the email, I add them to a group. So what this flow would look like, this product was purchased, this email was sent, and the subscriber is then moved from whichever group, or is moved into whichever group I choose. Just one basic way an automation like this could be set up. More importantly, this is how I was showing segmentation based on purchase history. Same thing when creating segments. When creating segments, and again, having those e-commerce connections, you also have filters like this. Has not purchased certain products, has purchased certain products. So you can create segments based off of this as well. Again, dynamic, right? So has not purchased the demo. None of these subscribers have purchased the demo, but if any of them do, they will be removed from that segment we create. A little bit about e-commerce there. Let's just go back and wrap up the session here. segmenting by purchase activity, segmenting by email engagement. So I did show this already, so I'll just talk about it a little bit again. But this is segmenting by things like opens, clicks, which campaigns were opened, if a certain number of campaigns were opened. So if a subscriber has opened 10 campaigns versus if they've opened only 2. So you can segment by how they've interacted with your emails. And this shows you as well, this shows you who is engaging more with your content versus who is maybe a little bit more inactive. Those inactive subscribers could be targeted differently, be sent different sequences, everything like that. Okay, that's basically it for the session. I know that was a lot of information. I'm hoping it wasn't, too much or too fast for anybody, but as I said, it wasn't geared for beginners or advanced. It's just all the information out there for you. So hopefully that's a little bit clear. I'll just see if there's any other information or any other questions I can answer. And in the meantime, I will just share where you can also find some resources. So if you are working with MailerLite and you need some help with whatever in the app, lots of different places to find that. So check the webinar chat. That is our knowledge base. That has all of the articles, the step-by-step guides we have for all the different areas of the app. So everything that I talked about, segments, groups, fields, preference center, everything. That knowledge base has step-by-step guides for all of those features. If you want to watch videos, and you probably will see Alex in a lot of those videos, that is our video tutorials area there. Same thing, all different parts of the app, all different features, and you can easily just watch tutorials on everything we have. The last thing I want to share is our community, which is a space for people using MailerLite. Anyone can join. And it is a community held on Circle, the platform, where you can interact with other people who use MailerLite. So there might be certain questions or certain maybe niche things that you won't find in our articles because it's very specific to maybe your business or your setup. And if you can't find that specific niche question, you might be able to find it in the community. So people ask questions there daily. We have admins who answer those questions, people help each other, and it is a great way to search and find solutions that may be a little bit more specific. I'm just checking. This session is being recorded and it will be sent out to everyone who registered. All of our sessions are recorded. I see one question here. I think they're referring to that preference center or that segmenting. So if they only wanted author information, are they still getting everything? Are they still getting everything? So you saw how when I was in the campaigns area and I was choosing those recipients, I could choose whether the campaign was sent to everybody or only certain groups. That means if I was creating a newsletter about hair care, I might not want to send it to everybody. I would only send it to that group. Or maybe not only to that group, but I would know to send it to that group specifically because they said they wanted that content and they should not receive anything else. You can also exclude them as well. So let's say I am sending a newsletter to everybody on my list, but I'm going to exclude the hair care group because this newsletter is not about that. It's about other products maybe. So they don't have to receive everything still. You choose what to send. I sometimes add notes to customer details. Is it possible to have this information in campaigns? The notes will not be the same as a field. So I do know what you mean. I'm just going back to the app here. You're referring to in a subscriber profile, all of the information that was in there. And I do believe, yeah, there is an area to just add notes, like general notes about your subscriber, but not necessarily. So if I look here, you can see here that I do have the subscriber field or the subscriber profile. And over here I have notes. So, and not really, these notes are internal for the profile. The information that is going to be in campaigns is those fields only. So if I go to subscriber details and I go to edit, you can see which information I have versus which information I don't have. So if I put MailerLite in there, for example, all the different fields, save changes, that will now show. This is what you can bring into campaigns, not so much notes. And it looks like we're just a minute past the official end of the session, so I won't answer too many other questions, and we'll just see what is being asked. Yes, so somebody asked at the end here, I've added the industries to my list. Can I import the updated list and map it? So I think you do mean about adding information into those fields. And yes, I showed this closer to the beginning, but if you re-import that list of subscribers and you have new information on that list, so you've added industries, you said, it will update with only those industries once you upload that list. So MailerLite does not add any like duplicates of subscribers. It will just update that new information. So if you want to add a bulk information, that is a way to do it by importing a list with that info. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. I don't see any other questions being asked, so I will stop the screen share. Thank you everyone again for joining. We do have several of these webinars weekly, from sessions like this to sessions more for beginners, sessions for migrating, and everything. Okay, thanks everyone. See you in the next one. Bye.